Pokemon Champions is finally here, and it's a game that, frankly, I want to go back to playing right now. I don't want to be here, I don't want to play the game. We're back to back on Pokemon releasing banger video games. First we had Pokopia, which frankly was a sleeper hit. I didn't understand how much I liked the game before it came out, but Pokemon Champions, ever since its announcement, I was excited for. I've always liked the idea of competitive battling, but the time investment to get into it was just something that always turned me off from it. I tried out just doing online Pokemon battling in general when Scarlet and Violet came out. I had a pretty decent Indeedee female Armor Rouge team that I really liked using, but just to get a team with the right IVs and abilities and egg moves that I needed for it to function well, it took me like 2 weeks just to breed the right Pokemon. And like, that wasn't fun at all. The only other time I've bred Pokemon after or since then was when I wanted a Torterra with Shell Smash, which was an egg move in Scarlet and Violet's DLC. But still, Torterra with Shell Smash is peak, so it was worth it. So when I saw that they were making a Pokemon battle simulator officially, and I didn't have to use Pokemon Showdown's, frankly, off-putting UI. Look, I'm happy that Pokemon Showdown exists, and I've used it and have fun with it, but I've never understood how to use it properly and haven't taken the time to understand it. And besides, this one has fun animations. I was excited for it, especially when I saw that it was on Switch and mobile. That was huge for me. With cross-progression, that is exactly what I would want out of something like this. Something that I can take time and play on my Switch if I'd like to, but if I'm out and about and I've got nothing better to do, I can have a quick battle. That seems awesome. Then when we learned that the Pokemon had a gacha system, but you could use Pokemon Home to transfer in any Pokemon you wanted to, I got way more interested. Because that means that we have this architecture where I could go play Pokemon Go, catch the Pokemon I want, and throw it into Pokemon Champions and start battling with it. That sounds awesome. So now that Pokemon Champions is here, how is it? How does the game work? Well, the game of it truly is just a battle simulator. All you really do is do online battles, ranked and casual. And you can do private lobbies as well to do battles with your friends. But that's it. There is somewhat of a bare bones story here. You're essentially running a Pokemon gym, and that's why you're training up so many different Pokemon, and the story here is immaterial. The real meat and potatoes here is the gameplay. Obviously, Pokemon battling, it hasn't changed much. It's Pokemon battling. But the way you get there is what's interesting. So I mentioned there's a gacha system. How does it work? Well, frankly, it's actually quite similar to Pokemon TCG Player, where the way you get new Pokemon, if you don't want to use Pokemon Home, which again is the free and easiest way to do it, is the in-game gacha system. Essentially, you can recruit Pokemon from Kit's farm. Every 22 hours, which you can speed up using quick coupons or victory points, which we'll get into, you get a roster of, I don't remember exactly, but like 8 to 10 Pokemon that you can pick from, and you get to pick one of those Pokemon. You can recruit them for free for 7 days if you want to just try them out and see if you like them, but if you want to edit their moves, abilities, or stats in any way, then you'll have to actually fully recruit them permanently, either by using victory points or these Pokemon tickets, which work similarly to the quick coupons. Once a Pokemon has been recruited and you can edit it, you can go over to training the Pokemon. Now, the nice thing about the UI in this game is it's very easy to go between the menus. If you're just selecting the menus outright, it does take a while to get from one area to another, but you have the minus button at any time to pull up the quick menu of every option in the game, and you can access most other windows within other windows. For example, if you're in the box and you're making your team, when you highlight a Pokemon, you can train that Pokemon from this window. You don't have to go to the training Pokemon section of the game. It's just a nice quality of life thing. But training your Pokemon is the thing that really lowers the barrier to competitive Pokemon. Like I mentioned, I like the idea of competitive battling, but I've never wanted to get into it because of how long it takes to get a team. First of all, obviously making the team is difficult, but once you know what you think you want for a Pokemon team, the only way to truly try it out besides testing it out in Pokemon Showdown, to get the Pokemon to try it out with, requires hours to days of in-game effort. Catching the Pokemon is one thing, but then you need to train them to have the proper IVs, which is a random lottery when you breed them. And then once you have the proper IVs, you need to train up their EVs properly. There's a whole bunch of terminology here that just is a mess to figure out. Not to mention having the right nature or the right ability, or if there's any egg moves that you want them to have. These things take a lot of knowledge and a lot of time, and it's the biggest barrier to entry for competitive Pokemon. And it's all gone now. now. All you have to do when you want your Pokemon to be a specific way is bring them to this training window. You pick out the moves they want, you pick the ability they want, and you distribute their stats the way you want them, and pick the nature right there. It's just a menu. Now, it does cost in-game currency. You either use victory points or a training ticket, but to be honest, the game is quite generous with this. I'll save most of the microtransaction talk when we get there, but if you wanted to change every single part about your Pokemon, it'd be like 2,000 to 3,000 victory points at most, which if you're just doing battles and not doing any side missions or any tutorials, that's like 5 to 10 battles to have the Pokemon exactly the way you want it, which is a lot. But the game gives you a lot of in-game currency just for playing it, including the training tickets, which I think are so super important because it lets you save on your victory points. You can just fully do everything you want to your Pokemon and then use one training ticket, of which the game gives you plenty. Then once you do that, you go to the boxes, you make your team, you give it the items you want, and you just start battling. Like, that's it. While you battle, you earn victory points and do missions to earn tickets to get more Pokemon to make more teams with. The most fun that I've been having is just making teams and seeing how they do. I made a whole Mousehold team where the whole point of it is just that it uses Population Bomb. And I have another Pokemon putting on gravity and making it more accurate and having more fun with it so Population Bomb hits more often. And like, is that a competitively viable team? Not really, but it's fun and it was easy to do. I would have never been able to do this team for fun in an actual game before now. Sure, I could have tried it on Showdown, but it's just more fun to me to have this professional UI with, by the way, amazing music. Now, is it all amazing? Obviously, no. There are issues here, so let's talk about those. You cannot talk about Pokemon Champions without bringing up the microtransactions. Now, as far as I'm aware, you're not able to just straight up buy victory points. I don't think you can. I haven't figured out how to if you can. Essentially, the game runs on victory points. As you play, as you win, you earn these points. And also as you do your daily challenges. There's dailies in here, there's weekly challenges, and you get a lot of victory points just for completing those, for getting achievements. The game kind of showers you with them. I've made like 6 to 8 teams, and I still have like 11k victory points just sitting there that I'm just at this point gonna save up for the next rotation of Pokemon. But there are microtransactions in the game. The main ones being an in-game battle pass, which seems to not lock Pokemon behind, but it does give you more Pokemon for free. Namely, the current battle pass gives you a Feraligatr and Emboar, whereas you get Chikorita for the free version of the battle pass. Now, it's not a huge deal because yes, while on the surface it would suck if these Pokemon were locked behind the battle pass, they're not. For one, you can get them from the gacha system, and for two, you can just use home. Like the big caveat to all the microtransactions we're going to talk about is that at the end of the day, you don't have to spend a penny to play this game. Pokemon Home is right there. If you already own other Pokemon games and you want a specific Pokemon, go into those games, get it, put it into home, and send it to champions. Now, I admit, at launch, that's scary, because at launch, when you sent a Pokemon from home to champions, it wasn't able to return to Pokemon Home. And then that really sucked for the people who wanted to send their Pokemon back. That's been fixed. They fixed that in like 3 days. I've still get people in my chats who are like, make sure not to send your Pokemon over. It's like, no, they fixed it like immediately. It was just in error. So now when you go to Pokemon Home, you send it to champions for a visit. And when you're done at champions, you send it back. Simple as. So like I mentioned, there's the premium battle pass, but there is 2 other purchasable things I've noticed. I know that there's a starter pack for about $6 that gives you a lot of the quick coupons, recruit tickets, and training tickets right away, which, you know, I think it's a decent value. It's still money that you don't have to spend. It does make me think that maybe the reason I haven't seen victory point buyable options is because maybe it's only in the eShop and not in the actual game. I don't know. The only other purchasable option I've seen is the membership. Now, this is the one I think is kind of ridiculous. The base Pokemon box you get is 30 Pokemon, which is tiny, and you can only have 3 team slots. Granted, the game makes it abundantly clear you can send Pokemon back. You don't need to keep amassing Pokemon. You can send them back whenever you want to make room for new Pokemon if you're not liking them. Because it's a competitive Pokemon game, it's not like you're trying to complete the Pokedex. But I think it's pretty clear what they're doing when you get 3 team slots and 30 Pokemon in your box, and then the moment you buy the membership, you get like 10 team slots and 1,000 spots in your box. think it's pretty obvious what they're trying to encourage you to do. But all this to say, it is still, at the end of the day, a free app that you can use Pokemon Home to send Pokemon in for free. And hey, the thing about this game is it feels like everything Pokemon has been releasing has been building to this. Because I hear you. Okay, it's not free because if you don't own other Pokemon games and you want that specific Pokemon, you need to use the in-game gacha and pray for it. But that's not really true because over the past year, Gen 9 has been being added to Pokemon Go. I think there are still some Pokemon that still need to be added from Gen 9, but the fact of the matter is that just recently, every Pokemon, for the most part, is available in Pokemon Go, which is a free app that you can just go outside and catch the damn Pokemon. It's really random what Pokemon you'll find out there, but if you've been playing since 2016, which I have, you already have a massive Pokedex that you can send directly to Pokemon champions. It is so easy to get your hands on the Pokemon you want for free on Switch. Another weird thing about this is that the mobile launch hasn't happened yet. Right now, Pokemon Champions is exclusive to the Switch and Switch 2. I, like many others, do assume this is kind of on purpose. Not because the mobile version of Champions isn't ready yet, but I think this is kind of the Pokemon Champions beta test. I think they wanted to see how much the servers would be impacted and snip out any bugs, because there have been bugs. There's been some crazy weird interactions between specific moves that just need to be ironed out. For one of them being that Haze, a move that is supposed to undo all stat changes, for a time also fully healed your Pokemon, which I guess is in a way undoing the stat change to your HP. It's not supposed to work that way. And Pokemon Company knows that when this goes to mobile, the user base will increase tenfold. Sure, a lot of people own a Switch, but a lot of people don't. And a free Pokemon Battle Simulator app is very tempting. So I wouldn't doubt if the reason it's launching only on Switch is that way they already are in the idea of, well, these people already really like Nintendo and really like Pokemon. So they'll be a little more forgiving if there's any major bugs. We can iron them out and then push the launch for mobile. So once it's nice and ready, everyone can get access to it. But that's the thing about everybody else joining. Something that I think a lot of people have already noticed is that this game is really good for the competitive scene of Pokemon, because lowering the barrier to entry means so many new people and new ideas are coming in. That plus the weird roster of Pokemon available. I assume more Pokemon are going to be added in as time goes on, but the opening roster of allowed Pokemon is weird and oddly picked. Not to mention the lack of items. We need more items desperately. I miss my wide lens on Mousehold. I don't want to have to set up gravity to use Population Bomb. Anyway, I'm getting off track here. More people playing competitive Pokemon means more fun things get figured out. People have been making so many memes on Twitter about the weird teams they're seeing in Pokemon Champions, because new people who've never done competitive Pokemon before are playing it and experimenting and having fun with it. And that's just good for the competitive scene. One, the more people interested in competitive Pokemon, the more competitions there'll be, so the more places you can go to play competitive Pokemon. But for two, new people bring new ideas. Not necessarily good ones, like this meme of a bulky Gengar. That's wild. But still, it's refreshing and it's fun. Pokemon did the rare move of unoptimizing the game a little bit to make it a lot more fun. I don't know, I've been having a lot of fun with it. All the footage you see in the background is just my footage playing the game and having a good time. If you want to see me realizing how bad I am at competitive Pokemon and getting better, I actually just released my gameplay of this last week, so you can go check it out here. But until next time, as always, you've been watching RyeTwost. Of all the YouTube channels, it's the second one. Stay toasty, slices.